open up to you guys. Who's got a question? Throw your hand in the air, raise it like you just don't care. Go ahead, shout it out. My good friend David Shapiro had been working with the folks at Ringling, and mutual good friend of ours named Justin Long, the actor. Justin hit me up and he was like, hey man, I went to Sarasota and spoke to kids at a college. And that was new for him, something he'd never really done before. But most of my career in the beginning, from like 94 till I would say, till I did Carnegie Hall, so that'd be like 2010. I was the college circuit guy because when I made Clerks, I was so young, I was close to college age. So colleges would have me come and fucking talk because they're like, oh my God, he's like 3 years older than you fuckers. Like, take a page out of his book and shit. So I did colleges forever. Justin never did. So this was his first time. And he was like, oh my God, it's crazy inspiring, man. Like they want to know things, they're hungry. And it's like when we were young. And I was like, yeah, man, that's the charm of going and talking to school kids and shit. I used to do it quite a bit. And he goes, well, they want you to come down there. This guy, David Shapiro, is inviting you down, come and speak to the kids at Sarasota at Ringling. So I said, yeah, something I do all the time. So I came down and we did a Q&A with the kids. And then David was like, we're doing a program. We did it with Justin and his brother where you make a short film with the kids and blah, blah, blah. Would you be interested in doing that? I was like, yeah, I'd be down for that. So I came down, we made one segment with the kids, one of the first segments and stuff. And then I kept telling David and the kids, I was like, we can make a short, which is fun, and you could submit that to a festival. I said, but a real education would be if we actually made a whole ass movie. So you could see everything that goes involved in it. And then we could find out what happens to the movie afterwards and stuff like that. So we all agreed, and the folks at Ringling were like, all right. And I kept coming back. So I went twice down to Sarasota before I had the heart attack. Then I had the heart attack, and then I took some time down. And then 6 months after the heart attack, we came back and finished the movie, like in the heat and stuff. So David introduced me to the college kids, and they were absolutely wonderful. The art school kids, mostly I deal with when I was doing the college circuit was just general college and stuff, not a lot of film schools or specific art schools. So coming to a school that's like full of art talent and shit, like that's like coming home. And that's like being around a bunch of people who you were when you were a kid, when you started the journey. And is over the course of 3 decades, like it's my responsibility as an artist to keep that fire going, to feel the same way about this stupid fucking job of making pretend that I did in the beginning to get me here in the first place. Being around youth feeds that because it takes you right back to that moment. You're like, look at them. Yes, they want this. Like sometimes people wind up on a movie set and they treat it like work. Not a single one of those kids treated it like work. Every day was like a fucking treat. They were going on vacation and we were getting shit done at the same time. So, my whole career has been about like just making pretend and being productive at the same time, fucking off while being productive. And kids know how to do that better than anybody else. So I loved working with them. They were great. And I'm telling you, man, I'll never forget. There was at one point, one of the character stuffs the flower into the lady's mouth and shit. And, we didn't have a flower that you could put in somebody's mouth. Betty Aberlin, who played the lady, she was from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. That was Lady Aberlin and stuff. Yeah. That was Lady Aberlin. So, with all due respect, I'm not going to put a fucking flower in her mouth, especially the dude in all the makeup pushing in her face and shit. So one of the kids sculpted that flower out of marzipan so that she could eat it. And they came with that idea. I was like, how are we going to handle this fucking flower thing? The girl was just like, I said, yeah. And she goes, I sculpt. I was like, oh, great. I was like, we can sculpt out of clay. She goes, why would you eat clay? She couldn't eat clay. Something to learn from these college kids. They don't miss a trick and shit. So she's like, I could carve it out of marzipan. I work with desserts and stuff. I was like, oh my God, by all means. And that's what's in the movie. And I remember like being so, like they didn't need my help. It wasn't like, I'll fix your problem for you and shit. They figured it out for themselves. And she brought her art to the table, made the movie better because of it. So I kept trying to explain to kids. I was like, look, we're all filmmakers. I ain't the only filmmaker here. Every one of us is filmmakers. We're all making our films under the one fucking umbrella and shit like that. So bring your A game. And they all did. They really did. Like not a one of those kids fucked off or was leaning on cars. They were all just like bright-eyed and couldn't wait to be there. And we were shooting sometimes like 2 a.m. and shit. So they were great. I won't forget those kids. At the end, they all signed a thing, gave it to me, which is framed in my office. Sweet kids, man. But hot as fuck. Oh my God. People don't understand air conditioning outside. Yes, Captain. I would say, I mean, I have to ask David to see if he remembers, but if I had to put it together, I would say we did 4. Then we did the second one was longer. That was, I think, 8 because I was there a week and change. And then when I came back post heart attack, we shot for like a week straight. So I would total maybe 16 days. Yeah, it don't really take all that long to make a movie, particularly if movie is dialogue heavy. Shooting talk is cheap, man. Like it's, if you're not moving a camera, if you're just holding on 2 people having a conversation, I can go on for a long time. As long as the content is interesting, as long as the performances carry it and shit, audience won't notice that like camera's not necessarily moving, so to speak. So shooting talk is relatively cheap, and a lot of this, even though it was our movie, a lot of it was chatter. Yeah. Some of them were in editing and stuff like that. Yeah, they kept going on with it as well. And then I would, whenever we gathered, the kids would come back, even if some of them like had moved on because they were in college and shit. But editing, that's honestly something that's the only part of the filmmaking process that I'm most confident about. I don't think I'm much of a director, and you ask any critic, they'll agree. But I know how to edit my shit. So I'm not really a director as much as an editor who's in charge of his own material. So I show up and I'm not like, let's shoot everything and figure it out in the editing room. I shoot movies like a children's puzzle. You get a kid's puzzle, it's like 12 pieces. That's it. Like I only shoot what I need and shit, and you could piece it together like a child. Anybody could edit a movie that I shot, for sure.
Is that why you're into the graphic stuff too, and kind of like telling a story in pictures?
When you say graphic stuff, what do you mean? Oh, comic books. I think I'm into comic books because I was raised on them, number one. And also, like, I know I was raised Catholic as well, but I believe my morality came from reading comic books. Jesus never made me want to be better than Batman made me want to be. I love comic book stuff because it tells the same story over and over again, just like the Bible. This is a story that's essentially about the worst thing in the world happening over there. And wisely, everybody is fucking racing away from it to save their life, except for one person who's heading straight toward it, usually dressed very awkwardly. I can read that story again and again and again because that's the person I wish that I will be if the moment ever comes. I don't know if I could be that person. I think if given the moment, I doubt that I'd probably fall apart. I'd crumble. But I want to believe that I could be the person that's just like, all right, I'll head to it. It's easy to have a hero complex when you're solving people's miniature problems and shit. But something big, something that requires like, super heroic might, I don't know. I don't know if I'd ever be up to the task, but I read those books and have read them my whole life, believing, hoping that if one day I'm called upon to do something remotely not self-involved. My whole life I've had my head up my own ass. Like basically I'm so fucking self-involved. In order to be a hero, you have to let go of that. You have to like put everybody else first and stuff. And while I am a codependent people pleaser, believe me, I get mine. Like we wouldn't be here if I wasn't taking care of myself first. But when it comes to something like that, and this is going deep on comic books, I'm so sorry. But it really is. It's the thought that keeps me up at night. As much as I love these stories, I was like, oh, I'd love to believe I'm the hero, but I'm probably chicken shit. In a moment like fucking where everything's falling apart, I would probably run from it. But I read those books and have my whole life hoping that they could steal me for the moment that I'm ever called. If I'm ever called upon, I could do what needs to be done. Does that make sense? Yes and no. Well, in comics, yeah. And when I write comics, I tend to write like, what did I just write recently? I wrote Spider-Man that's coming out in June. And then I just did one of my favorite things I've ever written for comics is a Jay and Silent Bob meet Archie. We're doing a big crossover and shit like that. And everyone's like, oh my God, is Jay and Silent Bob going to fuck those girls? I'm like, they're teenagers. Pigs, It's a very sweet story. I mean, there's like weed in it and shit, but it's a very sweet story. I was happy about it. This guy, though, it was interestingly enough, when we started making the movie, Killroy was a bad guy. And then as it goes back to something you said about one of the kids, there was a kid on set who said to me, we were between takes and shit, and he goes, based on the stories we've told, he's kind of a child protector. And I was like, what do you mean? He's going like, well, the 2 things we shot, kids are involved, and he's always on their side. And I was like, I hadn't thought of that. Oh my God, you're right. So when we did the next 2 segments, I rewrote them to make it that, to go more in line with the movie he saw that we were making. I was like, I like your movie way better than the one I'm making. Let's make yours and shit. So that was another thing those kids were crazy useful for. But yeah, I do love comics, but I've never made a comic book movie. I mean, I guess, this is colorful and graphic, but like when I think of comic book movies, I think of like the movies that I adore, like those Marvel movies and shit like that. And I don't have enough talent to make one of those. I barely have enough talent to watch one of those.
And it's a lot more people.
Way more people and way more money and shit. I'll always take less money, fewer people, man. You get a lot more done.